If I did not value unconditional love, these are some of the things I would do to manipulate a man to give me everything that I wanted. Number one, I would create an Instagram page that was very wholesome, didn't show any revealing clothing, anything like that. Jehovah's Witness like with a little bit of spice, you know what I'm saying? Because, that reads easy to control and, respectable, which is men's way in their brain is, seeing you as easy to control, right? So I would do that. Number two, when it came down to, I would just, I would have the body count conversation, but I would always keep it, below, from 5 to maybe 7. Even if I'm 50 years old, I would just still say that, and because men, have no idea about who women truly are. They think we're asexual, and all of that. It's easy to kind of lie and get them to believe that, because any man dumb enough to ask about body count is stupid enough to believe the answer. Because if you're above the age of, if you're not a teenager anymore, if you're like 19 or whatever, maybe you're keeping track. But once you get to be a grown woman, nobody's actually paying attention. But of course, you don't say that to them. You give them some, Jehovah's Witness like answer. You know what I'm saying? Virgin may be a little hard to believe, but if you're like in your 30s or in your late 20s, 5 to 10 or something like that, claim you've been in a relationship the whole time to keep the body count number more believable. But just keep it, 5 to 8 or something like that. They'll believe that. Then because of that, keep that lie alive, and then just go into how, loyal and monogamous that you are. You know what I'm saying? Be sure that they understand that because you're asexual, you're not that interested in sex and all that, because that's the narrative they believe about women. You're not that interested in, other men. Just keep that lie alive. So just start talking about that and really get them to believe that. Okay? Yeah. If they bring up having another woman, act a little offended a little bit, but then eventually agree to it. So allow them to have their other women and act like real women don't have those same desires. That's all you do. You know what I'm saying? And then just act like he's a king and bring up African proverbs and shit. Bring up, the men in huts and shit with a bunch of ashy women around them or whatever it is. Bring that up, really just feed into the narrative that it's normal and godly for a man to have more than one, while you just have that. Men will fall for that every time. You can act a little upset every now and then, but always end up agreeing with him when it comes down to that. I would definitely come across as Christian. Okay, because being Christian or religious automatically means you don't have critical thinking skills. And, men don't, the average man don't really want a woman with critical thinking skills. They want you to kind of be basic and regular so they can get away with shit. You know what I'm saying? So I would definitely be religious, of the cloth, Jesus. And I would use the Jesus thing is why I'm always monogamous. And I would use the Bible to glorify polygamy, where they had one man and a bunch of women. I would do all of that, and I would always use the Bible. I would use the Bible to justify why this is too much cleavage. I would keep it kind of, maybe this would be the max I would do, but not really. So I would definitely be religious, because that definitely goes into manipulation of all of it. I would agree with him on most things to get very little pushback. If I see that he's lying about something, I would kind of act like I don't see it. You know what I'm saying? Or I would get a little fussy about it, but then be easily pacified. You know what I'm saying? Into that. I would definitely do the cooking and the cleaning and all of that. Now, again, out of everything that I listed, the cooking, I don't do the cleaning, but the cooking is something I would do anyway. But I'm just saying, if I really wanted to manipulate a dude, these are the things I would present and that I would say and I would do. So, while I'm doing all of that, I think I got everything. If I remember something else, I'll let y'all know. Let me think one second. Oh, I'll be a little controlling, because they like that. The average man likes a woman to be a little controlling and insecure. They like that. If you're too secure and not controlling, they don't really like that very much. So, get mad at shit that don't matter, in liking Instagram pictures, show anger, and jealousy, quite a bit. Have your mouth poked out quite a bit. You don't want to be over too jealous to where you're just insane and crazy, even though some of that does work. But on the more normal scale, be pretty jealous. Don't display too much security in yourself. You know what I'm saying? Have a little bit of that going on. A little bit of damaged girl, you know what I'm saying? And a little bit of jealousy. That's also a good manipulator for men. So, do all of this. don't display you got too much money either. If you got a lot of money, downplay that a bit. Downplay that quite a bit. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to display too much financial independence. You want to kind of bring that back a bit. You know, you don't want to be like, on Skid Row, but you don't want to be, in the penthouse in Buckhead either. You know what I'm saying? You want to be kind of middle of the road, barely getting by. I would maybe wear a Waffle House uniform over his house. So they think that's where I work, something like that. But I wouldn't have too much going on career-wise if I wanted to manipulate a man, because that's really going to help him feel better. So I would do that. So while I'm doing all of this, I will be cheating like a motherfucker, because the key is to manipulate. So if I'm going to manipulate you, I want you to act a certain way. I want you to get to paying bills. I want you to have complete trust in me. And so then what I would then do is I would go and just be having other niggas. Because all of these things, because y'all believe so strongly in women are naturally monogamous, which is a lie. Women are naturally monogamous, that you're all they need, that they only need one dick to last them 12 decades. Since they believe their grandmama was sexually satisfied, for 80 years of her marriage, and they still believe these myths about women. It's very easy for them to believe that you would never cheat if you present this correctly. Okay, I'm a Jehovah's Witness. This is the Lord would never agree. All to get into the scriptures and all that, and so they would never suspect it. So while they're busy paying all of the bills and busy with their other women, you would definitely have your side niggas. It's very easy to cheat because niggas are not going to be as vocal. That's what women don't really get caught. So side niggas are not going to be vocal and put you on blast and blow up your spot and all that. They'll probably be cool with that. So you have him where you want him, and then you go and you have other dudes. Unless you're stupid and you try really hard, you will not get caught. You will be able to carry an affair for 10, 20 years straight, several affairs, and they would never know the difference because you're not going to be getting regular sex anyway. And that works in your favor because they don't think women care about sex. So as long as you are with him, you barely get any sex. He's not worried about getting sex with you because he's cheating. So while he's cheating with the other woman, you play dumb. The key to all this is playing stupid. You don't see it. You just posting my man, my baby. You drive. Well, you wouldn't say that because that's too ratchet. You wouldn't really be a Megan fan because that would lead them to think that you actually own your sexuality. You would be more of a Kirk Franklin fan, right? So then while they're working to pay the bills and while they're cheating and having their affairs, and you upkeep this image of natural monogamy and Jehovah's Witness and holy oil, they would never suspect it. Unless you are careless and stupid, they're not even going to go through your phone. They're not going to do anything. If you manipulate them correctly, which is so easy to do, then you will never get caught. And I know women who have done this, who have been married, and they've had a time of their life. A lot of times when women say they wasted their 20s because they was too busy being monogamous. See, what you got to do is you got to do all of this and then you cheat. But see, the reason why I would never do any of these things is because I actually care and value unconditional love. I need to be seen and loved for who I am, for someone who loves men, who can have that complete transparency. Deception is very easy and it works for a lot of people, but it's very unfulfilling for someone like me. But so many women do this, and it's easier for a woman to manipulate you by following all of the rules of the patriarchy. Follow all the rules. You know what I'm saying? It's easier because of, like I said, men already think that women are just these asexual people who just kind of, they want you to be a little brain dead. So play into that. Okay. But men have to work harder because everybody knows monogamy wasn't even designed for men. So you have to work harder for to manipulate women, but to manipulate a man is the easiest thing in the world. I've been on the phone with so many men, I'm thinking, if I just tell him what he wants to hear, he would absolutely believe me. And I can be married tomorrow. I can be married, I can do whatever it is, and then easy to play him like a fiddle. So I just wanted to share that because it's very interesting, but that's really all you got to do to trick a nigga. And you can get away with it for years. Women do. So in some ways, use this fake ass stereotype of what women are to your advantage, if that's what you want to do. It just ain't for me.